Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today for this session on blockchain and cryptocurrency. I'm Dikshita Bantwa, a third-year banking and finance student at Curtin University, Mauritius. My friends, Lukman Sukia, Nivesh Prawag, Akash Balak, and Sohil Jadar Singh and I are the panelists for today. We are all part of MAF's Future Fintech Champion program, and we have put together this event to fulfill one deliverable of this program. So we picked this topic, blockchain and cryptocurrency, because they are more than tech buzzwords. They have changed the face of banking and financial services as we know it, and the blockchain technology is picking momentum not only in the financial space, but in other areas as well. For example, in healthcare, agriculture, international trade, including supply chain and logistics, and even in the public sector. As you can see, blockchain technology is playing a vital role in many sectors. And we believe it's important for you to know how it works so that you don't miss out on opportunities it can provide. So it's amazing that you've taken some time out to attend this webinar in a bit to increase your knowledge base. Here are the items in today's agenda. First, I'll talk a bit about the Mauritius Africa Fintech Hub, followed by its Future Fintech Champion program. Then our guest speakers will give a presentation on the blockchain technology and some of its use cases. And we'll conclude with an interesting Q&A session. So feel free to use Zoom's Q&A function if you have any questions pertaining to the topics being covered today. We will address all of them towards the end. So let me start with the introduction of the Mauritius Africa Fintech Hub, MAF for short. What is it? It's an NGO that was launched in 2018. It represents and brings together the fintech ecosystem in Mauritius. So here's the fintech ecosystem of Mauritius. It comprises of SMEs, corporates, regulators, universities, to name a few. MAF brings all the parties in the ecosystem together so that they can collaborate and build cutting-edge solutions for the emerging African market. MAF is also here to facilitate the growth and development of the fintech sector, and it tries to do that in a number of different ways. For example, it does it through innovation and incubation, skills and capacity building, network and development programs, and finally, investment and deal flow. Now let's move to the Future Fintech Champion program. What is it? It's a capacity building and networking opportunity recently developed by MAF. It was put together in a bid to enhance the existing university degree. As you probably already know, universities take time to update their curriculums. However, technology advances at a rapid pace. And unfortunately, despite the fact that fintech is revolutionizing the financial space, the majority of finance students, they graduate out of finance programs with no courses in fintech. Consequently, many students are not exposed to fintech. And secondly, the fintech sector in Mauritius, it needs new talents to grow. For example, it's projected that in the next few years, banks in Mauritius alone will be looking for 150 to 200 new coders to help push forward the fintech projects. Rapid technological innovation implies a new range of career opportunities for students, and encouraging them to consider fintech as a long-term career will help the fintech sector to grow. As you can see in the diagram, these deficiencies will be addressed via skill building, network development, industry exposure, and awareness raising. So let's explore these for a little bit in the next slide. So first we have skill building. FFCs will have access to all of MAF's programs of workshops, skill building exercises, through which they will be able to develop their knowledge of fintech and a portfolio of useful skills. Secondly, the network development program will allow FFCs to get immersed in MAF's industry network and attend all of its networking events. MAF team will also be putting together programs of internship and work placements with startups and corporates that are members of MAF. FFCs will also get to participate in this year's Africa Fintech Festival and be part of MAF's regulatory roundtables, which is conducted on a quarterly basis. And as the FFC program is about active participation, FFCs are required to help MAF in spreading the word about fintech to make people aware of how the fintech sector is disrupting traditional banking and finance, and also how many opportunities are available in this sector. So we've reached the core part of today's webinar. Our guest speakers will soon be giving a presentation on blockchain and cryptocurrency. Our first speaker is Suyash Sumaru. He's the co-founder and CTO of Horizon Africa, which was launched in 2018 with the aim of democratizing access to blockchain technology in the African continent. He's also the founder and director of CodeViga, a tech startup that specializes in creating digital and blockchain-based solutions. Suyash has been active in the blockchain space since 2016. He has also launched various other international blockchain applications in the last few years and is actively participating in developing the Mauritian blockchain ecosystem. Our second speaker is Akash Balak. He's the co-founder and COO of Horizon Africa. He has an array of diverse experiences within the finance space, IT, and operations, which includes Forex brokerage and commodities trading. He has founded and managed different ventures during the last 5 years, and Akash is also involved in the blockchain space since the last 5 years. So over to you, Suyash.
Thank you, Nikita. Sorry, I will just share my screen, and Akash, you can just start with the first few slides.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Suyash. Thank you, Deepshita. Thank you, Curtin team and Math. Well, first of all, it's great to see so many people, so many students interested in this wonderful technology that has a potential to change a lot of things around you and consequently your career. So my name is Akash. I'm the co-founder of Horizon Africa. So during this presentation on blockchain, you will also hear from Suyash, who is a co-founder of Horizon Africa as well. So Suyash is the geek, so all technical questions, so you know who to ask. Now let's move to the next slide. Yes, okay. So Suyash will do a quick presentation on blockchain, how the network works, how it's governed. It's important to understand also smart contracts and cryptocurrencies. Horizon Africa also has its own blockchain network, HABN, Horizon Africa Blockchain Network, which is based on Ethereum, but works on a proof of authority consensus model. We will also touch on use cases, and then we'll show how you can create your own tokens and use it between your friends. So let's dive in. Suyash, all yours, so you can start.
Thank you, Akash. Just checking if I'm on mute. No, I'm not on mute. All good. Thank you, Akash, and thanks everyone for being part of this webinar. Welcome to all the Lukman Sukias out there. I hope that you will enjoy this webinar. So let's start with something, blockchain. We'll see in this session, we'll try to see why blockchain is all the hype right now. What are the technologies involved? What are the different components of a blockchain and things like that? And we hope that by the end of this session, the questions that you have been asking till now concerning blockchain and cryptocurrencies would change. Instead of asking, how can I invest in cryptocurrency? How can I invest in Bitcoin or things like that? You might start asking other questions like, does blockchain work? How can I apply that to my own use case, to my own school, to my own company, and things like that. So let's just dive in. First thing, please download the Horizon Africa app if you can now at the start. I will do a practical session at the end where there will be some tokens which will be distributed, but you'll need to download the app to be able to participate. So just go on Google Play and look for Horizon Africa, and you should be able to download that. The iOS version is not ready yet, but should be in the next few weeks. So what is blockchain? First question. It's a bunch of things. It's a bunch of things, which includes the distributed ledger technology, blocks, transactions, a peer-to-peer system. So all these things exist as a separate item, as a separate technology. But blockchain is something that all these things together and creates a system which solves some of the most important problems which have plagued, let's say, the digital economy, the digital system for quite some years. We'll go into these problems a bit later in the slides, but to start with, let's go to have a short history about blockchain. The history part is important because we need to understand that even if blockchain started with Bitcoin, the technologies which were used to start the first blockchain were created before that. So a bit of history. In 1991, actually, the first practical example of time-stamping data was created by these two guys. So this was a way to create a system where you could timestamp data and make it kind of immutable. So that was the first, let's say, case of immutability before the blockchain era. Next most important development was by Hal Finney. So his contribution to the blockchain space is very important in the sense that during that time, before the blockchain era started, he created something called the proof of work or reusable proof of work. So basically, the interesting thing is that the reusable proof of work was created to reduce email spamming. So the interesting part is that the proof of work system, which we'll go into some details later, but which is used by a lot of the current blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum, was created for an entirely different purpose, but has ultimately been used to do something else, to allow mining on blockchain networks. So next comes, let's say, the most important milestone in terms of blockchain, basically the first blockchain, which is called Bitcoin. So Bitcoin was effectively, as I mentioned, the first blockchain, but it used the previous technologies that were already created. And the interesting thing in all that is that it used it in a way that's very interesting because it solves certain very important problems like the double spending problems and how to ensure immutability of data. Immutability meaning that once you write data in a digital system, it cannot actually be changed. So Bitcoin was created like before 2008 probably, and launched in 2008 and 2009. So this was the first working blockchain prototype ever created. Now in 2013, this guy, so his name is Vitalik Buterin, so he wanted to do more with blockchains. So Bitcoin was created as a very specific blockchain. It was kind of a monetary system. It mimicked the way money worked in its own different decentralized way. But Vitalik wanted to do something more. He wanted to create a system where a blockchain where it wouldn't be limited only to cryptocurrencies, but actually expanded to various different applications that might be relevant to your own use case, whether you're a student, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're corporate, or whether you're a whole government. This was created as in the form of Ethereum, and the new feature in that was smart contracts, which was kind of the breakthrough technology that came with Ethereum. So when we talk about blockchains, there are certain things that we need to remember. The first thing is that blockchains are a decentralized system. So basically, this means that anyone can actually download the software and participate in the blockchain. For example, tomorrow you want to use Bitcoin, you don't necessarily need to buy Bitcoin to use it. You just download the software on your computer and you start participating in the network by validating transactions and things like that. But the problem with this system is that it's open, it's decentralized. You don't need anyone's permission to start using the system. So in this kind of open system, how do you maintain rules? Because if there are no rules, anyone can do as they want. The code is open source, you can change the code and launch it however you want. So how do you ensure a set of rules? So these rules are ensured by the governance model or the consensus algorithms of blockchains. So let's see what are these algorithms, what are these consensus rules, what are these governance rules which affect blockchains. So basically, most of the blockchains right now is based on a very simple mechanism. So it says that, okay, we have this blockchain. If you want to participate in the blockchain, you can participate, of course. It's very easy. You just download the software and you install it. The software could be anything. It could be a wallet. It could be a node that you install on your computer. But where does it become interesting is that if you want to participate, you can participate, but you need to play by the rules. If you play by the rules, then you are rewarded, okay? If you don't play by the rules, then of course you're not rewarded. So this is a very simple mechanism which is enforced by mathematical formulas, and which ensures that if you want to participate, you just play by the rules. And if everyone plays by the rule, then the system, the blockchain becomes very stable, very secure. So now these set of rules can be different. For example, one set of rules is defined as a proof of work. Another one could be defined as a proof of stake or delegated proof of stake. And another one could be a proof of authority. So these are kinds of different rules, set of rules that you can set up. And in some blockchains, you can also see a combination of these rules. For example, you could have a proof of work with a proof of stake at the same time, or proof of authority at the same time. So a blockchain doesn't need to use a single consensus set of rules. The blockchain can use different ones, but most of the most stable ones, like Bitcoin and Ethereum, use a single consensus set of rules, consensus algorithm. For example, Bitcoin uses proof of work. So what is basically proof of work? It's a way where you can actually ensure that everyone is playing by the rules. And how do you ensure that is by giving them something to do. Okay, you give them a mathematical operation to do, and the only way they can do that is by brute forcing it. That is, just try to find the right solution to a mathematical problem, and the only way they can do that is try all the different combinations. So this is, in essence, what proof of work does. So proof of work is very interesting in the sense that it's very stable. It has been used for quite some years, more than a decade in Bitcoin, and there are only a few cases where there were some bugs which could have stopped the Bitcoin blockchain. But all in all, it has been very stable, very secure. Proof of stake is different in the sense that you don't need to do mathematical operations. It depends on how much you want to stake in a blockchain, and proof of authority is entirely different in the sense that you have a limited set of kind of participants, and they need to follow the rules based on a smart contract or something like that. So what's the main difference between proof of work and proof of stake? We just talked about that. Proof of work is more about doing a mathematical operation to make sure that you have done something, and in return you're getting rewarded. So basically there are much more like components to the proof of work, but that's basically how it works. Proof of stake is different in the sense that you stake your coins on the network, and in return you get rewards. But assuming that you play by the rules, if you don't play by the rules, they can seize the money, the cryptocurrency that you put in the blockchain. So basically, if you want to create, I don't know, fraudulent transactions, you're going to get punished, and they're going to take your stake from the blockchain. So this is again a reward mechanism. So again, if you want to participate, you can participate. These are the rules. If you play by the rules, you get rewards. If you don't play by the rules, you get punished. Now, why do we actually use blockchain? What problem does it really solve? One of the main problems is about data integrity. So we'll go into this practical example in a bit, but let's talk more about the problems that blockchains are solving. So firstly, we have data integrity. So in our current world, it is very difficult to ensure that a piece of data hasn't been changed. For example, if you're going to store your data in any database, for example, if you store your data on Dropbox or Google Drive, on Facebook, Twitter, it doesn't matter. How can you ensure that your data hasn't been updated or changed? It's very difficult to do that because there are third parties involved. There are central entities which have access to all your data, and they have the ability to change the data. So in essence, your data is not immutable. That is, it can easily be modified at a really low cost. And this is one of the problems that blockchain solves. It's about ensuring that data that you save in a blockchain cannot be actually modified. So this is kind of a system of truth that has started for quite some years. For example, if you take the example of Bitcoin, in 2009, the information that was stored or saved in 2009 is still the same. It cannot be changed. If you want to change that information, you need to change all the information that have been saved after that, after 2009, and there are a lot of information. There are gigabytes of information which have been saved after 2009. So this creates a very difficult system to hack or to change something. And the second most important thing that blockchain solves is the double spending problem. So what is double spending? Let's say you have an image, you take a selfie, and you want that selfie to be unique, but you still want it to, send it to friends or family. So how can you ensure that? You can't really ensure that, because the moment you send it to someone else, they can do a copy of that image and send it to someone else. So basically now you have one copy on your end, a second copy to the person that you sent, and now a third copy that person has done and sent someone somewhere else. But now we're talking about images, so maybe it's fine. But what about money? What if you had internet money, online money? And how can you actually ensure that the money that you're sending online, okay, isn't being replicated and sent to someone else? So this is where blockchain comes into action, by creating this kind of common ledger where everyone has the same version of the truth. So if I am sending, for example, 5 Bitcoin to Akash, everyone can see that I'm sending 5 Bitcoin to Akash. I can't resend the same 5 Bitcoin to someone else, because they will see that, so this doesn't make sense. You have already sent the 5 Bitcoin to Akash, and now you want to send the same 5 Bitcoin to someone else. So everyone is helping to maintain the security of the system. So this is how blockchain very simply solves the double spending problem. So now let's see how a fraudulent transaction can be made, for example, in a blockchain, and how the blockchain actually stops it. We just talk about that. So, for example, I send Akash 6 Bitcoin, okay, and Akash previously had 14 Bitcoin. So essentially, his account has increased by 6 Bitcoin, and his balance is now 20 Bitcoin. Now, the problem with that is, sorry, not the problem, the fact about this is that this information has been replicated everywhere. So basically, anyone who is participating in the Bitcoin blockchain, whether you have a wallet, whether you have the software that you downloaded, everyone have the same information. Now, I can change my information and say, okay, Akash received the 6 Bitcoin, but I want to increase my account again by the 6 Bitcoin I just sent. So basically, both Akash has the 6 Bitcoin, and I also get the 6 Bitcoin back. I can do that on my end, but this won't be replicated by the other. So there's a different version of truth that I'm creating that is applicable only to myself, but the other participants won't accept that. So basically, you can do anything you want on the blockchain, but the most important thing is that everyone should accept whatever you're trying to put forward. And if what you're trying to put forward doesn't follow the same rules that everyone else is following, then it gets rejected. So in the last few slides, what we learned about is about proof of work, about consensus, and about distributed ledger. Something that I haven't talked about is about mining. So what is really mining? I'm sure you have heard about people becoming miners. They have downloaded this mining software and things like that. So basically, miners are the ones who actually take all these transactions. For example, if I'm trying to send 6 Bitcoin to Akash, the miners will take these transactions and add it on the blockchain. And again, this will follow the same rules. If I have a balance of 6 Bitcoin, I'm sending 6 Bitcoin, that's fine, I can send. If I have a balance of 5 Bitcoin and I'm sending 6 Bitcoin, the miners will say, hey, look, you're not following the rules. You only have 5 Bitcoin. How can you send 6 Bitcoin? So they're going to reject that transaction. So this is all about mining. So why would the miners do that? It's basically, why would they just spend their time verifying the transactions? It's because they are getting rewarded in Bitcoin. And whatever I'm talking about Bitcoin, this also applies to the different other blockchains like Ethereum, Litecoin, and things like that. So let's get into like maybe things that are more relevant in our current state of things, smart contracts. So we talk about Bitcoin a lot. Bitcoin is something very specific and quite stable, okay? And Bitcoin can't do a lot of things. It is programmable money, okay? But that's basically all it does, okay? But it does it very well. Now, what if we want to create our own use cases on a blockchain? What if we want to create our own rules on a blockchain? How can we do that? For example, I have a business where I want to create a software on a blockchain. How can I actually do that? So this is answered by smart contracts. Okay, so smart contracts are basically programmable chunks of code or of like programmable systems that you can just build together to create a whole kind of software on a blockchain. The aim is that you can set up your own rules, and anyone who wants to use your software on a blockchain has to follow the same rules that you have set. So it's basically the same thing. So on the bottom layer, you have the blockchain. To participate in the blockchain, you have a set of rules you need to abide to. That's good. Now, on top of this, you build your own software and you build your own rules. Now, anyone who wants to use your software has to abide by the rules of the blockchain plus the rules that you have defined. So this is the real power of smart contracts. And as I mentioned, it's basically like programmable things, payments, which are triggered by arbitrary logic. So the logic that you yourself have defined. So now we are getting into more details. So I talk about Bitcoin, which was programmable money only, and now we have different blockchains which allows you to create different kinds of system. So these are what we call programmable blockchains. So basically, now we have two kinds of blockchain. You have a blockchain which is very specific in what it does, like Bitcoin, and you have programmable blockchains that you can use and create your own use cases. And this is where it becomes really interesting for our different use cases, because you can actually use the power of blockchains to create your own software, to create your own system. And it doesn't matter what it has to be, what it is. You can create anything that you want. You can create a system where only you and your friend uses, but it still sits on the blockchain. You can create a system where there might be hundreds or thousands or even millions of people who are actually using it, and this will sit on the same blockchain. Again, there is no barriers to entry. If you want to create a system, you just go on the network, you create it. If you want to create a system which serves millions of users, you can do it as well. So there's no restriction on what you can or cannot do on a programmable blockchain like Ethereum, which is open and borderless. So let's go into more details about smart contracts. What are really smart contracts? So it's basically computer code, okay, that you write. You can actually see an example here. No, that's a JavaScript example. So and what does the computer code do? It just gives instructions to the blockchain. So basically, what you need to do is you tell the blockchain, okay, I want to use your underlying infrastructure, but I want to implement my own rules. And how do I do that? Is by writing computer code. And what are the computer code? It's just basically smart contracts. Now, when you write these smart contracts, you push it on a blockchain. What happens is that the blockchain enforces all your rules as the way it enforces its own rules. For example, if a blockchain has its own set of rules, it will use the same security mechanism to enforce the rules of your smart contracts. And this is where, if you think about it, you are kind of creating, when you're writing smart contracts, you're writing your software on a blockchain, you're kind of creating your own blockchain, which has your own rules. So this is where it's very interesting when you want to create your own use cases. So some of the items, some of the things that we hear about smart contracts, which are not really characteristic of smart contracts. So we hear a lot about whether smart contracts are maybe intelligent, or as the name implies, smart contracts. Not really. Smart contracts are not really smart. That's kind of a misnomer. They're not really intelligent or anything like that. Because it's just instructions that you give to a computer or to a blockchain. So basically, you can write anything you want. It can be as complex, as simple as you want, and it doesn't matter. It won't do anything else other than what you are asking the smart contract to do. That's number one. Number two, smart contracts doesn't have anything to do with artificial intelligence. In some of the projects, especially the scams, you hear about smart contracts and how they are used to create artificial intelligence system and things like that. They have nothing to do with artificial intelligence. Smart contracts are, again, or just instructions that you give to a computer or to a blockchain to do something. Nothing to do about artificial intelligence. And the thing about smart contracts is that they are not easily upgradable. So that's a very important thing. If you remember at the start, we talked about how a blockchain can actually ensure that your information is immutable, meaning that it cannot be changed. Now, this also applies to smart contracts. So that's one part of the whole equation. So when you write smart contracts, they cannot be changed. Now, the second part of this equation is that smart contracts are really software that you write. So, and software can have bugs. Software can normally be upgraded. If you have, for example, on your phone, you have Android or iOS, you will regularly receive updates. Even on your laptop, Windows, Mac OS. So you regularly receive upgrades that you install on your system. Now, what happens if you create a system where you can't actually install upgrades? Now that becomes a problem, because if you have bugs, if you have security holes in the whole software, then you are open to different kinds of attacks. And this is what actually happened in the past. For example, Ethereum was attacked, and this is why we eventually had like Ethereum and Ethereum Classic, because the attack caused some of the users to what we call fork a blockchain in a different version. So we have Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. There's a whole story about that, but basically what happened is that someone wrote a smart contract which was not kind of very secure, and a hacker actually stole a lot of funds from that smart contract. And since there were no way of actually updating the smart contract, they had to revert back, and there was a whole lot of events, important events in the Ethereum blockchain. So we talk about what smart contracts do, but the things that you need to ask when writing smart contracts, and you can take it from a high level of abstractions, in the sense that you don't need to know what how to write smart contracts, but you know what they can do, what they should do. So the questions that you need to ask are, what does my smart contract do? That's number one. And secondly, where should I host my smart contract? So you can write a smart contract for Bitcoin. Bitcoin does support a limited set of smart contracts. You can write smart contracts on Ethereum or any other blockchain. So you write a smart contract, but you need to decide on which blockchain to publish it. And next is actually publish your blockchain. Now, a very important thing about smart contracts, and a question that we hear very often is, can we actually store private information in smart contracts, or can we store private information in blockchains? Now, this is not really, this has different aspects to it. Firstly, blockchains, information on blockchain are public by default, but it's absolutely possible to store encrypted information in smart contracts. So let's go next to the another important item is cryptocurrencies. So what are cryptocurrencies? I'm practically sure that all of you have heard about Bitcoin. So what is a cryptocurrency? It's a digital or virtual currency. And the things that apply to a digital or virtual cryptocurrency is, how do you issue them and how do you transfer them? Okay, so let's do a practical example of, instead of explaining to you how it actually works, let's do a practical example. So if you have a notepad near you, or a copybook or anything like that, just tear out a piece of like one sheet of paper, draw an envelope on it, okay, and just keep it there for now. You could also do something, you could also outsource it to someone. So if you don't want to do it, you can just ask someone else to do it. And this has a significance. I will come to that a bit later. So actually, let me get to the significance of this bit. So what you just did right now is you created a wallet. So when you drew an envelope, what it really means is that you have created a wallet that you hold. So this is what you have like in terms of mobile wallets, where you set up your passwords and things like that. Okay, now if you want to outsource that to someone else, you do that. But what that means is that the wallet that you created is not really yours. The other person has created the wallet for you. So you maybe kind of own everything in the wallet, but really the real owners are the person who created the wallet. So this is what you actually use in terms of like crypto exchanges, if you use Binance or any other thing like that. So if you have your cryptocurrency on Binance, it's not really yours at that point in time, because they are being stored in Binance's wallets. So this is why this is what we call custodial and non-custodial wallets. So how do you actually hold your crypto? So the next obvious question. The way you hold your crypto is by holding private keys. So basically, you don't hold crypto. What you hold actually are your private keys. So this is an example of a private key that is characteristic to most of the blockchains out there, Bitcoin or Ethereum. And what you actually hold are the private keys, and the private keys allow you to actually spend the cryptocurrency. So basically, you don't hold the cryptocurrency, you hold private keys, and you hold the right to spend the cryptocurrency. And with this system, when you see this private key, it's just a bunch of characters and numbers. So basically, this ensures that you have the ownership of your cryptocurrency. It also ensures kind of a pseudo anonymity, in the sense that if the only thing that can identify you is this set of numbers, okay, so there's no way that people can actually know whether who is transferring cryptocurrencies from one point to another. There are ways to go around that, especially if you go for crypto exchanges and things like that. But if you go through a non-custodial system, you set up your wallet, your private keys, at that point in time, you are most probably completely anonymous. So let's continue our practical example. So on your piece of paper, you write a 4-digit code. So that's your password, okay, which is used to open your wallet. You can enter a name, okay, for example, Suyas_Sumaru, and that's the identifier of your wallet. So basically, let's say you could consider this as your private key. Sorry, as your public key, because this is how people identify you. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to transfer some amount of Bitcoin, so 0.5 Bitcoin to another person. So what do you need to do is you just write on your piece of paper, and let's say you have 6 Bitcoin. Okay, you start with 6 Bitcoin, and you want to send 0.5 Bitcoin. So basically what you do is that you write on your piece of paper, okay, I have 6 Bitcoin. I'm transferring out the 6 Bitcoin. Remember, you still want to transfer 0.5 Bitcoin, but in Bitcoin, you all of your 6 Bitcoins, okay? And it returns you the 5.5 Bitcoin, and it transfers out the 0.5 Bitcoin to someone else. So for example, in this example, it's Akash has 6 Bitcoin and he wants to send someone else 0.5 Bitcoin. What happens is that Akash spends the 6 Bitcoins, okay, and there's a change back of 5.5 Bitcoins, and the 0.5 Bitcoins goes to another person. It's like using a 100 rupee note. So if you want to use spend 50 rupees in a 100 rupee note, you're not going to tear it in half. So basically what you need to do is you spend it completely and you get a change back. And this is the same principle which is used for most of the cryptocurrencies out there. So let's talk about the Horizon Africa blockchain network. So what it really is. So we talk about Bitcoin and Ethereum as the main examples, but there are a bunch of other blockchains that are out there that have different attributes and different advantages as well as disadvantages compared to other blockchains. So HABN is what we call a proof of authority blockchain. So we talked about that a bit earlier. I think we had that in our slides. The proof of authority blockchain, where we have 15 validators. So basically, we have a set of miners, 15, and they validate new blocks and new transactions in their respective turn. And the consensus algorithm, which we use for the HABN, is proof of authority. And the aim really with HABN is to allow people to create and deploy what we call DApp, or decentralized applications on the blockchain. So basically, tomorrow, if you have a use case for yourself or your school, for your job or your own startup or any other idea, you can actually use the HABN network to deploy your software on top of this. And at that moment, what you have is a decentralized software, decentralized application. And the main advantage with HABN network is that it's very cheap. It's much, much cheaper than deploying on other kinds of blockchains like the public Ethereum and things like that. So there are a bunch of advantages, but the aim is really to kind of get people started on blockchains. So now let's talk about some of the use cases that are specific to blockchains, and Akash will just take over and explain to you the different use cases that we have worked on and that you could actually work on also in the future. Akash?
Thank you, Suyash. Let me share the screen.
Okay, I just stopped sharing on my end.
Yeah, I think it's good. So thank you, Suyash. So what type of use cases can be deployed on HABN, Horizon Africa Blockchain Network? I think that's the question that today I think a lot of you guys are waiting for. Now, Fintech, yes. So on the blockchain network, you could create your cryptocurrencies. On markets, for example, it could be used for trading. You could develop smart contracts for escrow accounts, for example. Well, the opportunities are endless. However, blockchain isn't limited to fintech solutions only. There are so many different applications. If you're passionate about sports, the opportunity is there. Talking about sport, I just remembered something that we were discussing last week with a couple of colleagues. I think a lot of you are Man United fans. I will just tell you a small story about it. Who's heard about the Red Knights? I'm pretty sure a lot of you has heard about the Red Knights. So the Red Knights, it's a group of people. In 2010, they put a bid to buy Man United. I think the bid was around 700 million pounds sterling, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, at that time, the bid did not go through. So today, the Glazers want more than 3 billion pounds for the club. Now, imagine that the Red Knights were able to expand their effort through investors around the world by using blockchain to raise funds through fans. So how it would work is fans would contribute to the bid for a smart contract that will lock the fund. And if the bid is rejected by the Glazers, the smart contract would release the funds based on the outcome of the bid. So if the bid is successful, the smart contract releases the funds to the seller based on certain criteria. Otherwise, the funds are returned to the investor. So this will increase the reach of where the funds can be raised. So even in sports, there are lots of applications. We're seeing fan tokens. Barcelona did it already. PSG, I think in the Premier League, Man City as well has raised fan tokens. So there are lots of applications to blockchain. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about various projects that are deployed on HBN, on Horizon Africa Blockchain Network, in the coming months. So more projects are being deployed on the platform in the coming months. And one of these projects is Tesla. So just to talk a little bit about Tesla, how Tesla is using blockchain in the project. So Tesla is a blockchain-based COVID-19 app that allows users to hold their medical information in full privacy on their mobile device instead of a centralized server. Now, this prevents misuse of health information and also prevents theft, as the data is not saved on any centralized server. But this approach of saving data on a mobile device presents its own set of challenges. Now, the problem is that the information, Tesla is saving those information on a mobile device, but how do we ensure that those information hasn't been tampered with? Because it's not being saved under our control. Now, this is where we use blockchain. So data like vaccination, test details, which are saved on the user's device or hashed and saved on HBN, on the blockchain network. Now, this hash is used for verification that the data hasn't been tampered with. Now, in regards to the hash, it is currently impossible to get the data from the hash. So what happened, we use that just to verify the integrity of this information. So blockchain helps us in this project to prevent tampering. And we also get a chronological proof of all actions. And this is one of the reasons why we use blockchain in this example. Now, let's take up another project that uses blockchain, for example, Storage Plus. Now, Storage Plus also uses data integrity features, which can be used by financial companies, insurance, and whoever need to ensure that the documents hasn't been tampered with, hasn't been modified. Again, in this scenario, we've used hashes to ensure integrity of this information. There are lots of different use cases. Now, let's talk about something that might be used by students by yourself. Now, this is an interesting use case which can be applied to you as students. Imagine that you guys have a token which are used between yourself for tipping or for services rendered or as a token of appreciation. Now, HBN allows you to create your token and name it as you like. For example, you could call it a C token. You could call it Curtin Alumni token. So there's different different variations of those tokens that you can set. Now, also you can set the total supply of those tokens. Suyash will guide you through if ever anyone of you want to create a token, how to do that. So you can create a total supply unless you want to do a Doge where you don't, but you believe there's no cap on the supply, you can do that as well. So based on this use case, Suyash would go through the steps for you to understand the process. So Suyash will just walk through how to create a token, how to transfer it between yourself. Of course, if there's any question on that, we can take it at the end of the presentation. Suyash, go on. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Let me just share my screen on my end. I'll take over from there. Okay. So firstly, as I mentioned at the start, just make sure that you download the Horizon Africa app. And if you're not able to do that, we'll make sure that we'll add the link in the next in the comment section on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on the YouTube video that we'll have later on for this presentation, so that you can download it. So how do you actually do that? So basically, you set up your wallet. The Horizon Africa app is effectively a wallet that you can use to set up and store your tokens for the Horizon Africa blockchain. So what you do is you set up your wallet, you set up your seed words, and when you set up your wallet, you just add existing token here, okay, and you look for the different tokens that people have already created. So you just look for the Suyash token, all right, and you just add it in your list of tokens. So basically, what's happening is that you're just adding an existing token, but the app also allows you to create your own token. So feel free to play around. You'll need some HABX to do the transaction. So feel free to reach to Akash or myself, and we'll send you some HABX to do the transactions. And you can create your own tokens, transfer it to someone else, and they can transfer it back to you. You can create your own use cases. So there are different like dozens of use cases that can be done with tokens and tokenization. So basically, you add existing token, add the Suyash token, and normally you get a balance of 0 here. So what next is you click on redeem token. So redeeming the token meaning that we're giving some free tokens that you can use. So my use case is our use case is quite simple. So you can use the SU tokens, as we call it, to redeem some of my services. Like if you want to ask me a question, if you want to have a one-on-one meeting with me, if you want to ask questions about the specific technology or things out there, so you can redeem your Suyash tokens for these kinds of services. And again, this is one of the models that you can use, and of course you can expand that to your own use cases. And just to go into more details about the HBN blockchain is that there's an explorer which you can consult at explorer.horizonafrica.io, where you have all the transactions that have been pushed on the Horizon Africa blockchain. So it's very similar to the existing block explorers that we have for Bitcoin or for Ethereum and things like that. It's more of a kind of a reference system if you want to see if your transaction has gone forward or not and things like that. And finally, when you have set up your Suyash token on your end, you just need to redeem token, and you just scan this QR code, and you will get your free SU tokens. It might take a bit, like a few seconds, maybe 5 to 10 seconds to confirm that you got the tokens, but you should normally get the tokens. And again, you can just use it to redeem your services if you have any questions and things like that. If you would like to discuss on something specific, or if you are in a company and you want me to do a talk about blockchain or cryptocurrencies, you can spend the SU tokens to like redeem some of my services. Basically, that's a use case that you can set up on your own or for your class or for your university. And honestly, the amount of things that you can do with this is unlimited by your imagination. So you might come with something completely different on your end and use it. So we'll just end here, and we'll take all your questions. And again, if you have any questions, these are our contact details, our website. You can reach us on Facebook or LinkedIn. Feel free and to follow our pages. And if you have any questions, you can just ask there. We'll be happy to answer. But for now, I think that we can take some of the questions that that you might have.
Thank you, Suyash. I think we have some Q&A there on the screen. I think there's a first one that's asking, this person invested in the Cardano and Ethereum and wanted to hear our thoughts on Cardano. So probably Suyash is the best person to take this question.
Okay, and do you think, okay, so the question is as follows. Hello, I am a CTI student and I'm personally invested in Cardano and Ethereum. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on Cardano, ADA, and do you think it will serve us if taking into consideration the realize of ETH 2.0. So what I'm thinking about when you're talking about surpassing, maybe you're talking about the value or something else. So let me just concentrate on the two different blockchains. So you have one blockchain which is called Cardano, and the other one which is called Ethereum. So these are kinds of two different blockchains, and their focus is also quite different. And the approach is quite different in the sense that Ethereum is more of a system where they're not afraid to make changes. And Ethereum 2.0 is one good example of it. They are kind of changing the consensus algorithm from proof of work to proof of stake. And this is a big change for a blockchain. And they kind of don't really care about the repercussions because they think that's the best direction to go forward, and they'll go forward with this. Cardano is more of a, is also a kind of a community-backed system, but it has a more defined roadmap for the next few years at least. So it doesn't have like things like smart contracts, but they're going to sorry, add that a bit later on. So sorry, to answer your question about whether it will surpass if it depends on what you're referring to. If it's like in terms of smart contract, maybe not. If it's in terms of value, I'm not really sure. And the value thing is very volatile right now, and even in the future. But what we need to understand is the difference in approach for both of these different blockchains. So I think that there's a next question. So talking about cryptocurrency from Anonymous, I wonder, what do you guys think about Pi coins as it is now under phase 2 development? So yes, Pi coins. So Pi is kind of an interesting project, and you know, there are a lot of blockchain systems out there, a lot of different cryptocurrencies and things like that. The way I try to see these different projects is in terms of the use cases. So basically, if it's a cryptocurrency, how is it different from, for example, Bitcoin? If it's a blockchain which has smart contracts, how is it different from Ethereum? What does it bring more on the table than Ethereum or Bitcoin and things like that? And if you can find a use case which is interesting to you or to some other people, then maybe then that becomes relevant. But if someone is creating a cryptocurrency, just term it as, okay, that's the next Bitcoin killer or something like that, then it's kind of a bit shallow in the sense that, okay, your Bitcoin which is doing this thing, so why do we need something else? You need to have a very specific use case or a very specific set of use cases. And if PyCons does, the project Pi does have these use cases, then yes, from the way, from what I remember for PyCoins, from the Pi network, it's a system where you can actually mine Pi using your mobile phone as miners. So this is kind of a different way of doing things, and it might be interesting, but things that you need to check also is whether they have a cap on their cryptocurrency, what are their issuance protocols. For example, Bitcoin, you know that there's a limit of 21 million by 2140. So these are things that you'll need to consider on your end to understand whether what's the next step, whether it's worth working on the project or not.
Also, if I may add to that, Suyash, personally, there are lots of different views on Pi. I'm not a big fan of multi-level marketing that Pi is doing. It's kind of similar to selling Avon, right, Sue?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and these are things that you need to check. And we're not talking about investing, far from that. We're not even touching that point. What we're talking about is the project itself. And if the value of a blockchain or a cryptocurrency is only its value, okay, or the monetary value, then there's definitely a problem. Because when you think about Bitcoin, it has a certain use case, it has has a certain thing that it's trying to achieve. It's decentralizing money. So that's a big thing that it is doing. And there's a very clear kind of agenda, very clear, and Bitcoin doesn't like exist alone. There are a lot of other items, like for example, there are things like the Lightning network, which is built on Bitcoin, which are actually creating like millions of transactions per second and things like that. So a lot of things are happening on a lot of these kind of serious cryptocurrencies. So what you need to see is whether these cryptocurrencies have a community and whether they have a real use case, a real utility out there in the world. So the next question, what are the laws in regards to crypto in Mauritius? If I earn through trading crypto, is it legal on the island? Is it taxable? Akash?
Well, there's no laws actually in Mauritius in regards to crypto. But what you might find challenging is when you transfer your crypto to your bank account, if you want to convert it to fiat, then it will depend on a bank-to-bank basis. They might ask you, where did you get those crypto? When did you buy it? But it depends on the banks, but it's always, it can be challenging a little bit. Sometimes very straightforward. But first thing, there's no law. If you earn crypto, is it legal on the island? It's not defined. Is it taxable? It's not defined. Is it characterized as you need to pay tax or the capital gains tax? It's not defined. So just good luck to you. You can do whatever you want for the moment. Until it will happen at some point, but right now there's no rules. Third, another question, Suyash, probably I might answer this. Are there any news media companies that use blockchain technology? If not, is it possible? Yes, is it possible? For example, you want to write something and you want to make sure that you get attributed to it. So then, yes, you can use blockchain technology for that. Suyash, do you know of any news media companies using blockchain at the moment? You have to check this.
Yes, there might be some companies because there are a lot of use cases for companies, as you said, like having the right attribution, and now especially with the NFTs, like wave coming on, you might see more news media companies actually converting some of their news items in terms of NFTs and things like that. So there are a lot of use cases that apply to new news media companies, and right now a lot of them are not using blockchain, but they are definitely very interesting use case in that perspective.
Okay, thank you. We have another question from Ajmal. In the Tesla use case, what is the objective of storing the hash on the chain? Is it to ensure that the hash value itself is not tampered with? Or in other words, how is it better than storing it on another secure private data store from Tesla perspective? Now, when we talk about medical health, it's very sensitive because those type of data carry a lot of value for people. Now, from what we did, what Tesla does is it's saving it on the mobile device on your app. For example, you have an app for it, all the data, your medical data, vaccination, regards to COVID-19, everything will be saved on your app. Now, because it's being saved on your app, how do we ensure that those data that is under your control hasn't been tampered with? Now, this is where we use the hash for it. The hash itself, what we do, we take the data, we hash it and save it in HMBN. And from there, at a later point, if we need to verify, we'll rehash the data again on the app and compare to the hash that was generated at the time of creation. If there's any change, then we know that the data has been tampered with and will be rejected as a consequence. Now, this is the reason why we use hashes for Tesla. I think we have a lot of questions. I don't know, Lukman, Dikshita, or Nipesh, how do you want to approach this? Do you have time?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
you can.
So maybe we can, for like a few more minutes, we can answer a few more questions. A few questions in the chat as well. I'm not sure if you guys can see those questions.
Yes, I can see them. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So let me take as much as we can. So what's with tokenomics of HABX? Now, HABX, HABN, the network, in the next couple of weeks, we're launching. From there, you'll be able to see all the tokenomics on that, how the network works, and be slightly different compared to other blockchain networks. I don't know if you actually want to elaborate on that a little bit.
No, for now, we'll share all the relevant information for the token economics later on, but it's getting interesting on our end because right now we're setting up a lot of use cases on HABN, like plus Testra and a lot of other NFT based projects which are getting on the network. So we'll share that in the next few weeks at the Okay, there's a question. How do we get hold of you guys? Like, please feel free to join us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Telegram also. I think that we just shared our phone number on our last slide, but we'll just add that in the comment section later on.
Yeah, some of us will do that.
Yes.
Another question, a very interesting question: is quantum computing a threat to blockchain? In the long run, maybe. Right now, not really. We are still like a few, at least 5-10 years away from any real threat from quantum computing. So basically, you will hear news on the media, like I think Google achieved the quantum supremacy or something like that. This was a big headline a few months ago. So these are just marketing stunts. Right now, in the more like practical sense, it's not a threat to blockchain. And by the time it will become a threat to blockchain, I think blockchain will have other different technologies like quantum resistant, how to say that, encryption systems to be that can be used. Okay.
Suyash, I think a question interesting. Ethereum network carries high gas fees. Why not use another small chain?
Correct. So it depends. So basically, you could do that, and some of the projects are actually doing that. And Ethereum 2.0 is actually implementing such a system where you can actually create what they call shards, where you have kind of a side chain. It's not really a side chain, but let's call it a side chain, where you put all the transactions and which would theoretically reduce your costs, your gas fees, and things like that. The problem with Ethereum right now is that it's still under heavy development. So before this becomes a reality and becomes stable, it could take at least a few months or maybe 1 or 2 years, which is not a bad thing per se, because big changes, and we're talking about a big blockchain like Ethereum with hundreds or thousands of applications and of transactions on top of it. So these things will depend on how Ethereum actually evolves, and if there are any projects which want to like plug in and become kind of a side chain to it. But yes, it's a possible solution, but it will depend on the specific project.
Okay. Any comments on the volatility of crypto these past few days? Wow, this is a big topic in itself. There are loads of things to talk about. I think it's another topic in itself, but there are loads of things happening. A lot of people are following Elon Musk, and with everything that's going on, where one small announcement can wreck the market, can make the market go berserk. So based on that, there are loads of questions to answer. What type of investors or speculators? What type of profile? What are people's plans with Bitcoin? So I think people will need more time to digest what's happening now and find out why. We'll never know why, but so many reasons for it. But tough questions to point out why exactly.
And to add to that, Akash, a lot of speculation, as you mentioned, but I mean, for us, it doesn't really matter. We are more invested in the technology side of things. If tomorrow the price of Bitcoin crashes down to 1,000 USD, it doesn't really change anything for us, in the sense that we know that the technology is out there, and irrespective of the price of the speculation of the bubbles and things like that, we know that the technology is here for the very long term, and we hope to just work on that, to have something like a system which can actually help people and businesses.
Also, one thing to point out to you, if this was a regulated market, Bitcoin, could Elon Musk be in for market manipulation?
Yeah.
Thing to answer. We don't know. It's a very complicated market. Everything is fair to say. Just people take their own conclusions.
Guys, so I think we can take maybe 2 or 3 more questions, and then we'll have to close out the session if you guys want. Willing?
So Yash, can you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So Yash, I think there's a question. Can you speak up a little about public versus private permission chains?
Okay. So that's a good, interesting question. So public versus private and permission blockchain. So these are free. You can have, let's imagine a matter where you have a public or a private blockchain, okay? And you have an open and permission blockchain. So you have 2 axes, public, private, open, and permission. So a public blockchain is a blockchain where anyone can actually go on the blockchain, launch the applications, buy, I don't know, cryptocurrencies, and launch the application. For example, Africa is a public blockchain, Bitcoin is a public blockchain, Ethereum is a public blockchain. A private blockchain is something very different. It's kind of a very closed system, so no one actually has access to it. And maybe some of the banks in other countries are using private blockchains, but it's no different than kind of a decentralized database. So there are certain use cases for that. But the thing that you need to remember is that it's completely closed to outside users. You need to be vetted. You need to have an access to be able to use that blockchain. Now let's see in terms of open and permission. So open blockchains are blockchains where anyone can become a miner. For example, Bitcoin, for example, Ethereum, Litecoin, and things like that. So you just download the software and you become a miner. A permission blockchain is where you can't become a miner. Anyone can't become a miner. You need to be vetted at the start. For example, the Horizon Africa blockchain has a list of 15 what we call miners over the years. So that's a set number of miners. So it's a permission blockchain, and there are different reasons for using this. It could be because permission blockchains are faster or scalable than open blockchains. It's not necessarily a good or bad thing. It's just a case of whether certain use cases require permission or open blockchain based on their limitations.
Suyash, I have a question on this one. I think we've all heard of the central bank digital currency, mostly known as CBDC. I think the Bank of Mauritius itself is planning to launch its own. So my question is, since they argue that these currencies are decentralized, do they actually use blockchain the same way as cryptocurrencies?
Interesting. Yeah.
I don't think the government has said decentralized word, just to clear that up.
Yeah. Are they using blockchain though?
They might use blockchain, but to fulfill certain characteristic of the coin. But I don't think it is ever mentioned to be decentralized. But blockchain technology will be used to fulfill certain functions that otherwise would be complicated for the currency to function.
Yeah, and what would be nice is that also is that they do it on Horizon Africa blockchain. So
I don't think
of course.
Okay.
I got questions from several friends while preparing for this event, and they asked, let's say they're not too used to blockchain technology, and they wanted to know, they want to get involved, so they want to invest in cryptocurrency. Is there any platform that you would recommend over any other platform? I know there's Coinbase, there's Binance, and a few others. So any thoughts on that?
Very difficult to say because, right now in Mauritius, there are lots of platforms that you can't buy. So to do a comparison, it's very difficult. For example, on Coinbase, I don't know if they're accepting payment from Mauritian residents. On Binance, some people are able to buy, some are not, depending on what type of algorithm Binance is using to verify the threat of the card. So we don't know about that. The other platforms you're able to buy, some not. So it's very difficult to say at the moment. It's very limited. You might end up with a platform where you're paying high fees, but that's the only platform that you're able to buy crypto.
And using a VPN or something, does that solve? Not really.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, they will need to do the KYC, so
exactly
using VPN, it won't matter. There's just one question that I wanted to take, a very interesting one, about what is your plans long term for this? So I'm assuming that we're talking about the Horizon Africa blockchain. What proof is there that is legit and not scam? Yeah. Because at the rate we are going every day, there's something new being listed. No offense to discussion, but it's just a safety of definitely. I think that's a very good question. It's very good that people are actually asking these questions. Honestly, the price of Bitcoin has ballooned for the last few weeks and months. I get at least one message on LinkedIn or Facebook asking me whether this project is a scam or not. So basically, we are already doing this and helping people like spotting scam, and we have put up tools online like isitascam.com where you can reply to a few questions and determine whether the project is a scam or not. So, but to answer your question, our aim is not really to raise money on our blockchain or anything like that. We're not looking for that. We're not listing our tokens on any exchanges right now. Focus is on making people use the blockchain technology. So you have a use case, you have smart contracts, you have your different business use cases that you want to set up, or personal use cases. Just jump on the bandwagon and start working on this. This is where the real value lies. Now, there's of course the monetary, the financial side of things, but this comes much later. The real value is about how can you build something that is relevant to the people around you. That's basically it.
Okay.
Yes. Also, Nivesh, the question that you asked earlier, I see as well a lot of people in Mauritius buy crypto through a third party, through an agent that's Mauritian, that's based in Mauritius. Now, there's easier way to buy. You could buy it yourself on an exchange. But the problem that happens that we saw recently with one person was talking to me, he said, when he was trying to convert it to fiat, he had lots of problems with the bank. When did you buy it? Where did you buy it? And till today, he hasn't been able to get the funds back into his account. So there's those type of things as well to think and ponder. Those transactions might be legit. Those agents are doing possibly, they're not scamming or anything. But the problem lies when you have to transfer it to your bank account at a later point.
All right.
So,
So
yes.
ideally, it's you can just spend it directly from as a Bitcoin or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, maybe just one more thing. I think that we have a lot of like unanswered questions. So what we'll do now, and we'll take these questions and provide an answer, and then you can share that with the participants later on.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll be happy to answer your questions. We'll try to get to them directly. Maybe send you messages afterwards. But for now, I think we are out of time. So we have reached the end of this of the event. Sorry for those we haven't been able to answer directly right now. I'd just like to thank Suyash and Akash for a great job. Thank you for an amazing presentation and enlightening us on and breaking down blockchain and cryptocurrencies for us. And I also like to thank MAF for the resources they gave us to allow this event to happen. And lastly, I'd like to thank all the participants. So everyone who joined this event and asked questions, thank you very much. You make this all worth it. So I think that's it. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you, Suyash and Akash, for this event.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Nivesh, for the team.
Thanks for having us here.
All right. Bye-bye.